enough to dimly understand how someone with muscles of steel and infinite wind might consider it fun anyway. But that night was something else. Part of it was the setting, I guess. Your prom is supposed to be a magical time. It was still quite early in the evening, but the Hotel Vancouver ballroom was appropriately decorated and lit, and the band was excellent, especially the singer. Ginny was both the most beautiful and the most interesting person I had ever met. She and I were both finally done with Fermi Junior College in Surrey, British Columbia, class of 2286, restored Gregorian. Huzzah! Go Leptons! In the fall, we'd be going off to university together at Stony Brook on the opposite coast of North America, if my scholarship came through anyway. And in the meantime, we were young, healthy, and hetero. The song being played was one I liked a lot, an ancient old ballad called On the Road to the Stars, that always brought a lump to my throat because it was one of my father's favorites. It's the reason we came from the mud, don't you know? 'Cause we wanted to climb to the stars. In our flesh and our bone and our blood, we all know we were meant to return to the stars. Ask anyone which way is God, and you know he will probably point to the stars. None of that explained the way Ginny danced that night. I knew her as a good dancer, but that night it was almost as if she were possessed by the ghost of Gillis. It wasn't even just her own dancing, though that was inspired. She did some moves that startled me, phrases so impressive she started to draw attention even on a crowded dance floor. Couples around us kept dancing, but began watching her. Her long red hair swirled through the room like the cape of an inspired toreador, and for a while I could only follow like a mesmerized bull. But then her eyes met mine, and flashed, and the next thing I knew I was attempting a combination I had never even thought of before, one that I knew as I began was way beyond my abilities, and I nailed it. She sent me a grin that felt like it started a sunburn, and offered me an intriguing move, and I thought of something to do with it, and she lobbed it back with a twist, and we got through 5 fairly complex phrases without a train wreck and out the other side as smoothly as if we'd been rehearsing for weeks. Some people had stopped dancing to watch now. On the way to the stars, every molecule in you is born in the heart of a star. On the way to the stars, in the dead of the night, there's a light that'll show where you are. Yes, they are, from so far. In the back of my head were a few half-formed, half-baked layman's ideas for dance steps that I wasn't even sure were physically possible in a 1G field. I'd never had the nerve to actually try any of them with a partner in any gravity. I really hate looking ridiculous. But Ginny lifted an eyebrow. What have you got? And before I knew it, I was trying one, even though there was no way she could know what her response was supposed to be, only she did somehow and made it, or rather an improved variation of what I'd thought of. And not only was the result successful enough to draw applause, by luck it happened to offer a perfect lead into another of my ideas, which also turned out to work and suggested something to her. We flew. We'll be through if the day ever comes when we no longer yearn to return to the stars. I can't prove it so, but I'm certain I know that our ancestors came from the stars. It would not be so lonely to die if I knew I had died on the way to the stars. Talking about dance is as silly as dancing about architecture. I don't know how to convey exactly how we danced that night or what was so remarkable about it. I can barely manage to believe we did it. Just let it stand that we deserved the applause we received when the music finally ended and we went into our closing clinch. It was probably the first time since I'd come to Terra that I didn't feel heavy and weak and fragile. I felt strong, graceful, manly. After dancing like that, Stinky, a couple really ought to get married, Ginny said, about 200 millimeters below my ear. I felt 14. Damn it, Ginny, I said and pulled away from her. I reached down for her hands, trying to make it into a dance move, but she eluded me. Instead, she curtsied, blew me a kiss, turned on her heel, and left at high speed to spirited applause. It increased when I ran after her. Ginny was 178 centimeters tall, not especially tall for a Terran, and I was a Ganymedian beanpole 2 full meters high, so her legs were considerably shorter than mine. But they were also adapted from birth to a